Hey guys, it's Zoe. So today I'm going to be talking about 10 books or series that I want to reread in 2018. Now, most of these are going to be fantasy or classics. There aren't really any contemporary books that I'm absolutely in love with and I find myself wanting to reread every year, so there won't be any of those in this list. If anyone has any contemporary recommendations where they think I will absolutely love it and want to reread every year, leave that down in the comments. I am always looking for new great books to read. That being said, let's get right into it. The first book I have is Wicked by Gregory Maguire. This is a bind-up of Wicked and Son of a Witch. It's the Barnes & Noble Collectible Classics edition. Wicked is a retelling of The Wizard of Oz, but this is from the villain's perspective, so this follows the story of Elphaba, the Wicked Witch of the West. The Wizard of Oz is my absolute favorite classic. It's my favorite children's story. As shown in my bookshelf tour, I have the 5 complete collection editions. I don't know what I'm saying. There are 5 books that are the original, 15 stories, 14, and then L. Frank Baum died, and somebody else wrote the 15th one. I think it was the editor or the illustrator. One second. It wasn't the editor. It was just a really big fan of the story. Baum's wife actually gave her permission to finish this last story based on his notes. So that collection has all of those. I have 7 copies of, I think they're second editions from the early 30s, late 30s. I can't show you them right now because they are being used to hold up my camera. Kurt bought me those at an antique show. They are absolutely fantastic. I want to get all of them, but there are like 40 something stories, so I don't know when I'll get them. Anyways, I digress. I love Wizard of Oz. This is fantastic. I definitely want to reread Wicked, probably Son of a Witch too, at some point this year. Next, I have The Golden Compass by Philip Pullman. Oh boy, that one's coming apart. Ugh. This is the first book in the series His Dark Materials, which is The Golden Compass, The Subtle Knife, and The Amber Spyglass. I remember reading these as a kid. When the movie came out, I didn't really like the movie because it left a lot out. They never finished the series. Fun fact, when I was a child, I didn't know how to say the word subtle, or I didn't realize that the way it was written is not the way that it really sounds, so I always called it The Subtle Knife. I distinctly remember my family laughing their asses off at me because I asked my brother to bring me a book called The Subtle Knife. I had never seen it written down. I thought that was how it was pronounced. I don't know. The entire time I was reading it, in my head I pronounced it subtle. I know better now, but there's part of me that always still wants to say subtle. Anyways, this series follows a girl named Lyra. I pronounce it Lyra. I like Lyra better. She lives in a world that is parallel to ours. The thing that's different about theirs is they have these sort of companions called daemons. I don't know how to pronounce that word, but it has like the A and the E that's combined. Basically, they're familiar. When they are young, the familiar can change shape whenever they want, and then usually around when they hit puberty, the familiar takes its final shape. And that's sort of representative of the character of the person that the familiar belongs to, and that is the shape that they have until person and familiar die. Lyra's having a grand old time running around Jordan College when she hears about this thing called dust, which she believes is spelled with a capital D, so that's how you see it written the entire time. It's not like the regular dust that you see on the floor. It affects everything. When she finds out about this dust thing, she gets drawn into this huge struggle. There are characters named gobblers who steal children. She meets this wonderful woman who turns out to be not so wonderful. She goes all the way up north. There's a polar bear involved. This series was one of the most fantastical ones that I read as a kid. I have great memories of reading this, and I definitely want to read it again soon, just to see if it's really as good as I remember. I really, really hope that it's as good as I remember, because it was absolutely phenomenal. If it's not, I will still have the great memories of reading it as a child. The next book I have is Sabriel by Garth Nix. This is the first This is the first book in the Sabriel trilogy. I don't really know what it's called. I don't think it has a name, but the original books are Sabriel, Lyriel, and Abhorsen. Some other ones came out recently. I don't remember what it's called. Oh my god. I'm gonna go find out. Okay, figured it out. It's called the Old Kingdom series. I don't think I've ever seen that written on any of the books that I have of this version. Anyways, the sequel is called Clariel, and the fourth book that follows up Whoreson is called Golden Hand. I haven't read those. I really want to, so I think I'm gonna reread these, then go buy those and finish out the series. I loved it. It was very, very different from anything I had expected. This series follows a girl named Sabriel, who is the daughter of a necromancer named Whoreson, and she must go from her kingdom into a place called the Old Kingdom. She has to cross a wall. It's a magical place to rescue her father from something known as the Land of the Dead. As a necromancer, he uses these little bell things, I don't know how well you can see them here, to basically control the spirits of the dead. It's really cool. The whole setup with the map kind of reminds me of Game of Thrones, where there's the wall and then there's like the southern kingdoms and the northern wildland sort of, but also the map really reminds me of A Court of Thorns and Roses, how the human lands are really tiny at the bottom and the fairy lands are huge. That's kind of what you get in this map here. I love it. It was a fantastic series. The second book, this is one of those ones where I'm not going to talk about the plot of the second book because if you don't already know, I hate giving away spoilers, but the second book didn't start the way I expected it to, but then it all kind of came together in an amazing way. I definitely recommend this one. It is fantasy, obviously with necromancers and lands of the dead and whatnot. I may look for a non-mass market version one day. I have all three in the mass market, so I might need to just repurchase all of them because I really hate this little thing. But the book is so good, and it holds a lot of memories from when I was a kid. I'm really torn. Oh boy. Next, I have the Fellowship of the Ring, the first of the Lord of the Rings series. I've read it a few times. It's kind of falling apart. Lord of the Rings is one of my absolute all-time favorite stories. There's nothing that I don't love about it. Yes, the books drag much, much more than the movies do, but there is so much more packed into these books that they didn't get in the movies. I don't want to rant about it now because I will never stop, but the books are awesome. I want to reread this series as well as The Hobbit. I have a couple other of Tolkien's works that I want to get into that I've never read. I don't know why I haven't read them, but this is definitely high on the reread list. If for some odd reason you don't know what this is, even if you've been living under a rock or something, this series is set in Middle-earth. It follows a group of people who come to be known as Fellowship of the Ring. There are hobbits and elves and wizards and men. There's a dragon in The Hobbit. It features a Dark Lord. If you read the series, you don't really get as much in the movies, and you love Harry Potter, or if you even read it, you will pick up on a lot of the names that J.K. Rowling uses from this series. She took a lot of names for her series from The Hobbits, which I think is awesome. It merges my two favorite things in the entire world, and I am a happy little lady whenever I notice a new thing that she picked up from The Lord of the Rings and put into Harry Potter. Like there is one of the tobacco. It's the tobacco that the hobbits smoke. One of these strains is known as the Longbottom leaf because the guy who made it, his last name was Longbottom. It's Neville. I think there was a Puttyfoot, like Madame Puttyfoot's tea shop. The reference to Sauron, known as the Dark Lord. We got Voldemort as the Dark Lord. It's fantastic. The whole thing is fantastic. I am about to rip this thing right off, and I'm very, very sorry to it. There is nothing that I don't love. I think I already said that, but it needs saying again. There is nothing I don't love about this series. It is a commitment to read it. I will not lie about that. If you can't immerse yourself into the world, and if you have a short attention span, I probably wouldn't recommend these because there's so much detail and it does drag at times. Normally I hate that, but I love it in this series. I don't know, I don't know. But where was I going with this? I don't even know. I am just consumed with love. If you have a shorter attention span, or if you find fantasy books hard to get into to begin with, I would say stick with the movies because they do a good enough job on their own. If you take it as totally separate from the books of telling the story, there's just so much more that happens in the books. They do drag. They do. I feel like I'm dragging right now too. I don't know. However, I think that if you do put the time and effort into reading this, it is a very rewarding experience. Woo! We're okay. We're okay. You good? Hey. Ooh! Okay. Woo! Alright. The next book I have is The Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. Don't know if this one has a name for the series. The Daughter of Smoke and Bone series? That's what we'll call it. I've heard very mixed things about this. When I read it, I absolutely loved it. It's that kind of weird fantasy that I really love. It's something that I find she has a really weird, not writing style, but her imagination is crazy. The things that this woman comes up with, I am 100% here for. I absolutely love this series. I love her weird sense of imagination. This story follows a girl named Karu. She is a girl who lives in Prague. Her hair grows out blue. It's always grown from the roots, this like blue kind of like this. It's electric, it's fantastic. I wish my hair grew that color. She lives in Prague. She doesn't have a normal sort of human family. Her family is made up of chimera. They are creatures that are just a jumble of different things. You don't really know why they are that way. It's been a while since I've read this series, but I absolutely loved it. Basically, there are angel-like characters and demon-like characters, and then you have Karu, a girl with blue hair who lives in this world of demon-y characters. She doesn't really know it. She has some of these characters. The way you get into their house is there's this door, and there are doors all around Prague, all around the world, where if you enter this certain door, you will enter her family's home type thing. It's not like a normal home. I'm doing a terrible job of explaining this. I just love it. Maybe one day I'll find a good way to explain this without my mind going everywhere, because there's so much that happens and I don't want to give anything away from the other books. Maybe I will write a short synopsis in the description box where I can find a way to wrap my head around everything and make a coherent synopsis. That's what I'm gonna do. And I'm just gonna stop rambling about this one now. Next, I have Game of Thrones by George R.R. Martin, the first book in A Song of Ice and Fire. We are all waiting very, very impatiently for the 6th book to come out. It was supposed to be out last May, May 2017, from what I heard. It's now January 2018, and I still don't have the 6th book. I will have to make do with rereading and reading the 5th one for the first time, because I haven't gotten to it yet. I think the reason that I haven't gotten to the 5th one is because the 4th one, A Feast for Crows, that one drags in the most impossible way. It's so boring most of the time. But you need to get through it to get to the 5th one. And I haven't found time to just get through it. I don't know when I'll get to that one, this series. I want to get to it sometime, I think in the spring, so I can set aside time to sit down and actually take notes, because this is one of those books that you really need to take notes for. There are so many characters and so many different little plot arcs that all intertwine. There's so much happening that you really need to take notes, I find. So shortly after that last bit you just saw, my phone ran out of space. I was filming right before school, so I didn't have time to go get a memory card and then film again before it got dark out. So here I am on Wednesday. I'm going to be putting up this part today, just like as a part 1 kind of thing, and then putting up the rest on Friday with the last 4 books of my top 10 to read in 2016. It's 2018. Yeah. My top 10 to reread in 2018, and yeah, I think that's all I really had to say. All of the usual things. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads at You're a Book Nerd Zoe. I will link those down in the description box for you, and I think that's it, yeah. I hope you guys all have a wonderful day and get at least a little bit of uninterrupted reading time, and I will see you guys on Friday in the next video. Bye!